How are you? First of all, how has been training camp? How's everything going heading into this fight? Weird times with the pandemic. How are you feeling?
I feel great. Given the circumstances, given that it's kind of like a few weeks notice type deal, I feel like I've been one of the fortunate ones to be able to train a little bit more than probably most. I have access to a lot of resources out there in New Mexico, and it really made it a lot easier to be able to go out and get in the work that I need for this fight.
Would you say you had a close to normal training camp? Like, how prepared are you in this situation?
I'd actually say a pretty close to normal training camp. I think the only thing that would limit it to not close to normal training camp is the time span on which I had to get ready for it. But as far as what I did and how I trained, I would say it was a pretty close to normal camp.
Yeah, we see you here at 135 pounds. Why do we see you at bantamweight? Is it because the UFC maybe told you to move up a weight class? We saw that in your last bout you missed badly, or is this a decision of your own to move up to 135?
I think given that I missed weight at 25 again, it was the UFC's decision, and not just that. Considering that all these fighters are having the cut weight on 2 weeks, I also think that had a big part of it, but mostly because of my last weight cut to 25 was unsuccessful.
Yeah. Would you say your 25 days are over, or do you think you would go back down there in the future?
Honestly, that's not my decision anymore. That's kind of a decision up to, the head honchos on as far as that goes. But, I still feel I can make 25. This last one, I was super confident going into it, but I made some more technical errors. I got on the phone with the client from the PI for like an hour and asked him what I did wrong, why it became, because it wasn't the will to not make weight. It wasn't that I just, came in super heavy and didn't want to make the weight. There were some errors done on my end. Ultimately it was, my fault who made those errors on how I proceeded to go with the weight cut and my choices on how I was going to do the weight cut. And, we took the extra hour. We tried to cut more. We even asked for more time. We were confident that we could make it with a little bit more time. But unfortunately, those are, as a professional, I was, expected to come in on weight the first time. So, it's not for me to say, but it's something I'd definitely like to give it another try in the future.
Yeah, and last question for me. Why do you insist of going down to 125 even though you've missed a few times? Because we've seen you have success at 35 and pick up wins there.
Yeah, obviously the cut to 35 is easier. I guess I just like the way my body performs at 25. I'm lighter, I'm faster. I'm strong at that weight class. I guess just a preference on where I started fighting since day one. It's where I'm comfortable at, I guess.
All right, thank you, Ray. Good luck.
Thank you.
Then next up, we have Gabriel Gonzalez from Cage Side Press. Go ahead, Gabriel.
Hey, Ray. How are you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. So, Ray, obviously there's been a lot going on in, both, flyweight and bantamweight over the weekend with Henry Cejudo saying he's retiring. I mean, you're a guy who's been at the title level at flyweight, and if this is your new weight class, bantamweight, so what is your reaction to all the news?
I don't know. It's kind of I've been talking it over with my coaches over the week. Like, do you think he's really going to retire? Do you think he's really going to retire? And a lot of us think it's just negotiation tactics on his end. But at the same time, I could possibly see him retire, for as long as he's been at, combat sports. The fact that he's been in, some really big spots at an early age like myself. Like, I don't know if I could see myself fighting past like 33 or 34 primarily because I was in the UFC at 20. But I started training full-on MMA, like not just, jiu-jitsu beginner classes or anything like that. I started training full-on MMA when I was 13 years old. So I've been in this sport for, believe it or not, a really long time. And so I myself don't know if I could see myself fighting past like 34, depending on how my body feels. Obviously, that's going to be the biggest factor. I haven't been in any wars. I haven't been beaten up and, been through any crazy fights. So, my body could do just fine past 34, but it's just a long time in the sport. So I could see it happening. I could see him kind of, deciding to call it an ends where he's at. He's at the mountaintop, and everyone wants to go out on top. No one wants to keep risking fights and losing and things like that. So I mean, it's possible for him to retire.
And in regards to flyweight, obviously they had the fight with Benavidez and Figueiredo. That there's obviously a bit of a just confusion there on the weight miss and everything. Just what were your thoughts on how that played out, and now the fact that the title is still open at flyweight?
Yeah, it was kind of an all over the place situation. I thought Benavidez was going to win. I thought Benavidez would kind of out wrestle him. Figueroa showed with Formiga that he doesn't quite have that wrestling credential. So, hopefully there's still a lot of movement going to happen at 25. Hopefully this kind of didn't put a little of a stink on the division with, it still being vacant, considering, Cejudo vacated it. And then there was supposed to be a new fighter to come in and, be the new champ. And it's still vacated due to a missed weight issue. So, hopefully it doesn't stall the division out, and hopefully things move forward. And maybe, in my personal opinion, I think maybe Figueroa should fight. I think Benavidez should just chill out. And I think Formiga should I think Benavidez, I'm so sorry. I think Figueiredo, I would say Formiga because they look exactly alike. But I think Figueiredo and Moreno should fight. Moreno's looked really, really good lately. He's one of the fighters who he got cut and he capitalized on, that time away from being cut. He really wanted to come back and improve his skills. So he's looked really good. So I think if him and Figueiredo fought, that'd be a cool scrap. And then the winner fights, Benavidez for the belt again. Although Benavidez lost by knockout, it was, controversial, and the weight issue was obviously a big part of that controversy.
Gotcha. Final question for me. Ray, you are still coming off 2 victories. I know everybody is talking about the weight cut and then the comments and everything. But for you, can you describe it? Because I know a lot of people are criticizing you, but you are still coming off 2 wins, which is a big deal in the lighter weight classes that are so competitive.
Yeah, it sucks that I've missed weight, but what people tend to forget is I'm pretty good at fighting. And, there's a reason why I fought for the belt at 24 years old is because I'm pretty damn good at fighting. So, that's something that people tend to forget. And, it sucks that, the whole plague with the weight issue and the, not making weight, it's all my fault anyways. I should have made weight, so I'm not going to sit here and make up excuses on that. But, it is what it is, and I'm just a good fighter, and, I plan on moving forward, and the only way to get this whole missed weight thing out of over my head is to show up, make weight, and put on a good fight.
Hey, thank you, Ray.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ray. You're good to go.
Cool. Thank you.